Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Learn Analytics. Thank you for all the new subscribers who are tuning in for the first time, and thank you for all the returning subscribers. On today's episode of Learn Analytics, we would actually be going through a actual case study, hoping to share some valuable insights with everyone on a case study and how to think about it and how to approach it, and also like how a finished product or solution looks like. So to start and give some context, I would say case studies are actually very often given during an interview process. So from my own experiences, they usually start with a recruiter call. And then after that, it could subsequently head into a hiring manager call, mostly on behavioral stuff and your experience. And then thus after, you could be having a analytical case study in this case. So I'm hoping to walk over through how a case study looks like for everyone who haven't had this before. So I'll share my screen. So the case study that I actually chose was a case study given in the delivery space, as in food delivery company. So this food delivery company is a pretty global, big delivery company. So I'll read off the prompt and as we go. So the next step in the process is an analytics exercise. If it all goes well, we'll like to have you meet additional team members via Zoom video conference. Here are the details. So attached it is a link to the actual data set. Link is a month's worth of sample delivery data from one of our earliest months of operation. This isn't the complete set, but it's comprehensive enough that you should be able to get a good look at the business. Feel free to make any assumptions you need. Your job is to give me a specific set of recommendations on how to improve our business based on this data. Please send me your recommendations and supporting analysis and assumptions no later than 24 hours after receiving this email. How you communicate your ideas is completely up to you. So this is actually very common. That in a case study, you usually get about 24 hours to maybe 48 hours, or maybe sometimes 72 hours, 1 to 3 days to complete and send it back to them. So here they also provided a glossary of the definitions for the different variables in the data set. So take a brief look before we dive into it. So it seems like there's variables around customer placed order date time, so time of customer placing the order, placed order with restaurant, so what time was that order placed it with the restaurant, and then driver at restaurant date time, so driver arrives at the restaurant, delivered to consumer date time, so time that the driver delivered to the customer. And then you have a unique driver ID, you have unique restaurant ID, you have unique consumer ID, customer ID, you have delivery region, which is the city, you have the order total, the amount, discount, the amount of tip, the refund amount, and as well as times. So high level, you could see that this information is very particular to the business itself. So a lot of the times it depends on the role that you're applying to and also the company. The case study could vary, and as you know, like the data sets could vary vastly. So we know that this is a food delivery company, so this is what we expect. Customer placing an order, there's a restaurant receiving the order on the other side, there is a driver who is expected to pick up that order and then also deliver it to the customer. So we could look into actually the data set points here. Some of this would be actually pretty useful. I would say that customer, so you could actually see how the data set looks like. So customer placed it, order date time, placed it order with restaurant time, driver at restaurant date time, time delivered to customer date time, and then you have the unique driver IDs, restaurant IDs, customer IDs, and such. Order total, amount of discount, amount of tip, refund amount. So as you look into this data set, I guess you would start to have to start coming up with like, what are some good questions to begin with, right? Because ultimately this case is to find business insights from this data set. So right off the bat, I'll list them as we go here, what I'm thinking about. And then later on, we'll be talking about the product or solution that I actually came with. So some of the things that I'm curious is really, there are a lot of different timestamp components here, as we see around customer to placing the order, in between to the restaurant, pick up the order, right? And then the driver arriving at the restaurant. And then driver also delivering, arrives at customer. So I think one of the curious things that for sure that they laid out the different timestamps is to really look into really how does that really look like in a perspective of the time duration, because ultimately for a delivery company, they want to run their operations as smoothly as possible. So is this marketplace, working as smoothly as they want it to be, right? So you could look at the different timestamp components and the different time changes, and then try to draw various insights from here. So that is one angle to look at it. Another angle to take this into account is there's a lot of information about the restaurant's information. So there is restaurant IDs to here. So ultimately, another thing I do care about is really the restaurant's business here, as in the restaurant's ability to generate, where are people ordering their food from, as in where are they going, like which are the most popular restaurants, for example. So a lot of the questions here is to draw insights around, maybe possibly you could see order totals, you could see how many orders per that restaurant, where is the delivery region, as in restaurants and cities within each city, what are most popular restaurants. So I think here, if we dive deeper, as we look into which are the most popular restaurants and which are the ones that generate the highest amount of orders, then we're curious for those teams at Doordash who works with the restaurants to how to continue to succeed with those restaurants, right? So it's first identifying which are the popular restaurants, and then how can they continue to succeed and deepen engagement with restaurants. Yeah. And then another way of looking at it is also the customer perspective, like what are they ordering, stuff along those lines, like what are the order total, and also like there is an amount of tip. So I think that is also very interesting too, right? because like we want to see what customers tip value is. So like how much are they tipping in general? So things along the lines of we could definitely, I think there's additional insights to draw around trying to find some correlation between customers tips and order amount and which restaurants they ordering from. So yeah, so I think that's good to start around some of these core questions here, especially the order, the marketplace time stamps from each location destination. So I think these are just like some general things I got off of the case pretty quickly. I think there's many ways you could look at this and try to see how you can improve the business. But in this video, I think my best example is like really think of it as in what is the business and how can you help the business make decisions off of it, right? So one case is like maybe we see scenarios where there are hiccups between the restaurant actually creating the meal and our drivers showing up very late to pick up the meals, right? So like bring those insights to life, like, oh, which city it is, how much of it is happening in this percent of time, right? And then other things like on the restaurant side, as I've said, like how can we deepen the engagement with the restaurants that we care for? And then also identify restaurants that are not doing so well, right? We want to ask like why have we partnered with them, and how can we improve this partnership, or is there just something fundamentally restaurants that we shouldn't work with, right? So I think these are good business case questions. So, and then going off of it, I'll be actually showing you the finished product, how it usually looks like in terms of a case study. So here, so now I will be showing you the finished product of this case study as an example. So now I'll be walking over the actual case slides or the finished product or the solution here. And we'll talk about each slide and give some more additional context and insights. So as I've said already, really to focus in on the insights that you can bring to life based on that data set. So some of the questions that I highlighted earlier around merchants and the restaurants spend. So here, able to compile a pretty nice visual based on the data set that we had, that we found that the total volume and also the total amount of the gross comes from the Palo Alto region. So we see that 63% of the order volume is coming from the Palo Alto region, which generated over 600K in customer order spend. And then on the right-hand side is a graph that Palo Alto and Mountain View customers' average order amount is much higher. So they're willing to pay a premium compared to San Jose. So here we're able to pretty much identify much of the orders are coming in the Palo Alto region, and they're able to spend at a higher order amount per order compared to that San Jose region. So I think it's important to think about city and regional behavior and the type of merchants and where the orders are coming from. So next view is to really break it down even more, to really look at now we know within that region and within that city that where is the orders coming from and the amount. but we're interested in understanding by restaurant, which are the restaurants that are generating most of that value, right? So we're actually able to break this down into a pretty long tail, as you can see. Restaurant 9, restaurant 20, some of these on the far left are the restaurants where customer are spending a lot more on average. And you can see how many average daily orders they're getting from these restaurants. So giving, once again, a case is fundamentally just to prove, to in the interview process that you're capable of thinking through the problem, and then how to showcase that insights in a data visualized way. So as we continue here, here's a pretty much similar as the previous slide, but to really show, restaurants, how much total orders volume, what total order amount look like. How did that sort of like decipher between Palo Alto, Mountain View, and San Jose? So back to the earlier point, it's very important to highlight these insights so we know which restaurants are the ones that are most popular in which cities. So I think I talked about this one earlier as well, to really look at the tip, the average, or the creating a box plot between how the amount of tip that customers actually give to the drivers themselves. So here on the left, we can see the total amount as a percent of total order amount of the tip, and then on the right is the amount of tip. So important to see and show some of that statistical knowledge around creating box plots to be able to see the min, the median, as well as the max. So you could see that median of 255 tip per delivery. So as we further go along, it's more metrics around how do we look at the drivers themselves. We know in the previous slide they get tipped about 255 per delivery. Then we're interested in really understanding how many deliveries are they doing on a daily basis, right? So try to break it down into how much do they actually make on a tip per day. So here's a visual to show how many deliveries do drivers do on a daily basis. And then in the blue is the number of drivers who are actively doing orders on a daily basis. So we're able to come up with they do about 6.2 average deliveries. They're able to make up about 15.8 around the median range. And then actually the top 25% make up about $27 in tip per day. So definitely has some variability, but it seems like the higher average deliveries is correlated with lower number of drivers and lower when higher number of drivers. So what I'm trying to paint is in these boxes, we're able to see sort of understand that marketplace a little bit more. Like on these days throughout the month, there were less active drivers. And what had actually happened is the volume of deliveries for each driver had to go up, versus on day 23 to 25, we actually see more drivers. So really the demand pushed off per driver, right? And I think that's important to showcase, as in you're thinking about the marketplace and the health around it. So here, this is the slide pertaining to how the restaurant time, customer ordering it, place it through a customer to the driver, and also the driver arriving to the actual customer location. So we're seeing in the median, and it takes about 3 minutes and 50 seconds from customer placing the order to the restaurant actually receiving it and accepting it. Then from the customer placing the order to the driver arriving is about less than 20 minutes. And then from the customer placing to all the way to time delivery is about 45 minutes. So I think this is also very interesting because, of course, we want to make this time as short as possible and try to relay this message throughout the interview. So some of the next steps is basically highlighting what you have already done in the previous slides, but to summarize it. So we found that the restaurant's business and which restaurants are very important, right? And then the second part, attractive tip amount for dashers. So these drivers are getting a pretty nice tip amount per delivery overall, which is also very interesting. As well as the last part, how can we improve our operational excellence as well? How can we improve this delivery time space from 45 minutes to 40 minutes? These are very big incremental overview to the business itself. So hoping this gives you a good example of how a case study looks like and how a finished product or solution looks like. Yeah, all right. Please feel free to leave any comments and questions down below. And yeah, wait till next one. Thank you, everyone. Bye.